Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Catholic Education Foundation podcast number 9. We have a very special guest today, Mr. Phil McHugh. Following a highly successful career at Fifth Third Bank, Phil is now the leader of the Catholic Inner City Schools Education Fund, or CISE, an organization that works to change the futures of over 2,300 low-income students by providing them an outstanding education across inner city Catholic elementary schools in Cincinnati. And always, Mr. Rich Lecklider. Rich is the president of the Catholic Education Foundation of Louisville, now in his 9th year. Gentlemen, how are we doing?
We're doing great.
Could not be any better.
Louisville.
Well, so Phil, welcome back to Louisville. You spent a number of years here running the Fifth Third Bank of Kentucky before being promoted to a senior leadership position at the corporate headquarters in Cincinnati. Tell us about yourself, your family, including your roots in Catholic education.
Yeah, well, good morning. It's great to be back in Louisville. We have fond memories of this community. We were here from 1994 to 2010, and Louisville holds a special place not only in my heart, but heart of my wife and 4 children as well. My background is I was raised in Toledo, Ohio, one of 8 children, and all of us were fortunate to receive Catholic education in grade school and high school. Then I continued that on in Xavier University in Cincinnati, and stayed in Cincinnati post Xavier to join Fifth Third, where I was for 34 years. And in all that time, I really had a heart for community service as well. And when I came to Louisville and got to know the Archdiocese of Louisville and the work the Catholic Education Foundation was doing, I just had to jump in with both feet, and I just can't tell you how proud I am of the organization and the new heights it's reached under the terrific leadership of Rich Lecklider.
Well, we'll get to a little bit of that. But Rich, I mean, isn't it amazing how 2 successful business executives like yourselves now running non-for-profit organizations, literally and changing communities here? I mean, that's pretty cool. And so how did you and Phil meet years ago?
Well, we're both Xavier graduates. We have that in common.
Okay.
I graduated a little bit earlier than he did, as you can see.
Mm-hmm.
And we connected in our business pathways, right? I was with Kindred Healthcare for a long time. Phil was at the bank. We did some business together that way. And in about 2005 or so, Phil calls me up one day. He says, hey, I want you to do me a favor. Yeah, what is it? I want you to join the board of the Catholic Education Foundation. I said, you know what? I'm so busy. I got so much going on. I've just been the CFO of the company and all this stuff.
Sure.
I don't have time. I just don't have any time to do it.
Sure.
And he told me the biggest lie ever. He said, you don't have to do anything. It's really easy. Just join. I thought, oh, okay, well, if it's that easy, I'll do it. And the rest of it's history. I mean, you know, we worked together on the board. Phil was the chair. And we really started taking this thing to new heights during that period. And Phil, obviously, with John Asher, co-founded the Luncheon event we're going to talk about today.
Wow, that's awesome.
Our first year was 2008. And, yeah, we'll get to that.
So, Phil, you're to blame here for Rich being involved, huh?
I think that story about the phone call only gets better as time goes on.
That's right.
So, Phil, tell us a little bit about CISE, how you were drawn to lead this great organization.
Yeah, so thank you. So CISE stands for, as you mentioned, the Catholic Inner City School Education Fund in Cincinnati. The organization has been in place for 42 years, and it was started by then Archbishop of Cincinnati, as well as 2 business leaders, to provide a values-based Catholic education for inner city children in Cincinnati. And what we like to say there is this is an opportunity to provide an education for children who may otherwise not receive a values-based education. And this is one of the surest paths out of poverty. So as you mentioned in your opening comments, we currently have about 2,300 students in 10 elementary schools.
Mm-hmm.
In addition to the elementary schools, this fall we're welcoming 350 SICE elementary school graduates into Catholic high schools, and we're very excited to open a 11th school that SICE will be partnering with in Cincinnati called Xavier Jesuit Academy. So it's remarkable work in terms of providing a education for children to set them on a path they may otherwise not have. And as you can imagine, any organization that's been around for 40 plus years, we have many graduates of our SICE schools involved not only in Cincinnati but throughout the country, doing great work to, in effect, pay back or pay forward the educational benefits that they've received. So it's rewarding work, and we continue to provide scholarships for our students to attend Catholic schools, and it's been very fulfilling work for me personally.
Phenomenal. So now, is the Cincinnati Catholic community similar to the Louisville Catholic community? Because it's a robust Catholic community in Louisville.
Yes, I think Cincinnati's community is very strong. Ironically, the Cincinnati Archdiocese grew out of the Archdiocese here that actually started in Bardstown. So we just a little bit up the river here, 90 miles up, and very strong Catholic community. And not only in terms of our elementary and high schools, but obviously a fine Jesuit university there as well that Rich and I both graduated from, Xavier University.
So during your time here in Louisville, Phil, you got so involved expanding the Catholic Education Foundation. Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we had a business relationship with the Archdiocese, and folks at the Archdiocese, it was Archbishop Kelly at the time, Dr. Reynolds introduced me to the Catholic Education Foundation, and I personally benefited so much from a Catholic education that I wanted to get involved and help others' children have the same opportunities that I had. So I became involved with the Catholic Education Foundation when I was here.
Sure.
I was involved in many charities, but I will tell you, this was my favorite charity because this was an investment that we knew would pay dividends over time, and it continues to pay dividends in this community. And I'm just so pleased to see what the Catholic Education Foundation does. It gets better and better every year, and I think that is in response to the fact that the need gets larger and larger every year, but the generosity of this community never ceases to amaze me. If the need is there, there will be donors that come forward and help fulfill those needs. So it's just so gratifying to see the heights that the Catholic Education Foundation has reached recently.
Rich, when he says the dividends are paying back into the community, what's he mean by that?
Well, we're taking kids that otherwise couldn't go to a Catholic elementary school, right? So if your average tuition to start kindergarten is $6,000 and your family can only pay half of it, that's a big gap.
Sure.
And then there could be children behind them
as
well. So what we say to folks is, look, if you want to be part of this experience, if you want to be part of this community, and you're willing to invest your own money in it, it's not free, then we'll accompany you throughout this journey. And what you end up with is these incredibly faith-filled kids,
right?
Families that thrive during this as well. And ultimately, the way we kind of view the world is that a lot of these kids will journey on to Catholic high schools. Many of them will journey on to college. And guess what? That kid that we're helping today who's 5 years old, in 20 years, that's our donor.
And you've often, and Phil, I'd like to hear your opinion on this too. We've often talking about how much it values local businesses because we're providing better employees for the future.
I'm glad you brought that up because one of the salute dinners, and I don't recall which one, but we had David Jones Sr. there, and David and I were conversing over dinner, and his comment to me about Catholic education was that as the leader and founder of Humana, he found the graduates of Catholic schools were the best employees of Humana. And he was so generous, and I could go on and on about all the lessons he taught me. But the one that sticks with me is if you can hire employees that are going to do the right thing, care about their neighbor, and care about the community, you're going to have a great company. And he told me numerous times this evening that Humana was able to achieve the success they did as a result of the Catholic school graduates that they were able to bring into that company who made a difference, not only for Humana, but for the community of Louisville.
How powerful is that, Rich? I mean, that's something else.
It really is. I had the opportunity to work for Mr. Jones for many years at Humana early in my career, and he and Wendell Cherry told me the same thing when I started with the company in the early 80s, that they had founded this company in the 60s, gone public in the late 60s, and just amassed all these Catholic school grads,
right.
some from Louisville, some not,
sure,
and built this incredibly successful company. Yeah.
Pretty exciting stuff.
It's great.
All right, so Phil, obviously we have the Salute to the Game coming up, which you and John Asher actually founded 15 years ago. How did that whole thing get started?
Yeah, it's an interesting story, and it probably gets better as the years go on as well. But John was a fellow board member, and we were having a discussion about the St. Xavier Trinity football game.
Sure.
And I think when I was here, it was the last Friday in September, and they'd hold it out at Cardinal Stadium. And the first time we attended, I was amazed at the crowd.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was in excess of 30,000 people. And my mind just started thinking, dreaming, how could we possibly utilize this game and this gathering for an opportunity to benefit more children through the Catholic Education Foundation. And I'm not from Louisville, as I told you, so I was not a graduate of St. X or Trinity, so I thought I could be...
You didn't have a dog in the hunt.
All right, I could be the neutral party. I'm
right.
both teams.
Okay.
And we arranged a luncheon for myself, and the head of St. X at the time was Perry
Sangali.
Yep.
And Rob Mullen,
mm-hmm.
Yep.
and the executive director, Rosemary Smith of the foundation. And everyone told me prior to the lunch that, boy, they don't really want anybody to utilize this game for any other benefit than St. X or Trinity. And I went in with a different approach. I thought both these individuals were tremendous leaders of Catholic high schools in Louisville, and that they, like everyone on the Catholic Education Foundation board, wanted to provide that education for as many children in the community as we could. So over lunch, I told them I had an idea, and it literally at that point was an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe we could have a luncheon a couple days before the game, and we could bring supporters of both teams together for a community-wide event that we tagged the Salute to the Game.
Sure.
I think the first year, and I don't have the numbers, but we were fortunate enough to do it down to Gold House. We had the community response. I think we had hot dogs, and I'm not even sure we could afford the mustard and ketchup.
Okay.
But we had people come, and we started with a small group. My good friend and blessed soul John Asher said, I'll be the MC.
Right.
And John was the MC and did a phenomenal job. We had the presidents of the school, the athletic directors, and both football coaches. And it was a fun luncheon.
Sure.
And I guess the rest is history.
Well, I tell you, what it's grown into now is kind of phenomenal. But so I'm told, Rich, that the first lunch was drawn about 500 people. It was pretty impressive for the first one, and netted about $25,000. This question's for both you guys. Did you ever dream it would blow up to what it has today?
I never dreamed beyond the first luncheon. We would take it one event at a time, but I think it's reflective of most things in life. If you find good leaders that can take whatever project event to a different level and you let those leaders run, you'll be amazed how fast they run. And it's a credit to Rich in terms of what the luncheon has become, but more importantly, how many lives he touches in this community through allowing families to send their children to a Catholic school. And that's what's really neat about this luncheon.
Yeah, it's just exploded into this community-wide event. We're now attracting over 1,000 people at the luncheon. It fills the grand ballroom of the Gold House Hotel, which not many events do. And people, it's about the game, but it's not, because people understand what this thing really is for, is to allow our kids to go to Catholic schools. And the response has just been, both from a family perspective and a corporate perspective here in this community, the response has been astounding in my view, and it just keeps getting bigger. We've set records at this event every single year since we started it.
Phil, I'm going to tell you a personal story that it goes to what you guys started here. So my son he's a 7th grader now at Ascension Catholic School, and he came home last year as a 6th grader with tears in his eyes saying, "Hey, Luis, one of my best friends, ain't coming back." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, his family says he can't afford it." I saw Rich the next day, made that comment, and Rich said, "Well, what's his name?" And Rich found out, and lo and behold, a couple weeks later, it was figured out, and the kid came back to Ascension, and with the Catholic Education Foundation's help. I mean, it literally changes lives, and this luncheon is a huge part of it. If it wasn't for this lunch, the funds wouldn't be there to do that. It's pretty amazing how deep this thing goes.
That's awesome, and thanks for sharing that story. Not only did it touch your son's friend, but there's stories like that throughout the community year after year, that an investment in the luncheon, an investment in Catholic Education Foundation allows a student to attend or to stay in a Catholic school. They receive a quality education that's really going to set them on a path for more success in life and how they can reach the potential that God sees in them, maybe before any of us see it in them, but we do our part to help them along the way. And as you said, this is a phenomenal organization, and I'm humbled to serve at one point as the leader of the organization, and I love where it's headed, and I can't wait to see what it looks like 10 years from now.
Well, speaking about where it's headed, so Rich, you just alluded to it, but every year this event sets a new fundraising record, every single year. How does your team keep turning this amazing performance in?
You know, we're God blessed to do it. I'll tell you, we're a small team, right? There's 6 of us.
Yeah,
You know,
right.
There's not 16 of us. It's 6. So we kind of come together that way really well, I think, from a chemistry perspective. And, you know, Julie Baum, the vice president of the foundation, Julie actually ran the very first event.
Oh,
She's
okay.
been with us 17 years. So Julie, when we launched this thing, she was our on-call
So
person to run
it's
the
just
event.
much as her baby that it is yours. Okay.
So she's really grown with this event and really managed this thing so successfully. So I give her all due credit for that. But again, the outreach that we have is just it. To Phil's point, people get it. They understand it. For example, last year this event netted, after we paid our expenses, this incredible $525,000. I mean, it's just, there's no luncheon in the Commonwealth that does that.
No.
Now, what that means for our kids is if you look at the average awards and this and that, that's going to help about 450 kids go to Catholic school alone next year. 450 of them.
Yeah.
In one event. So it's just incredibly powerful. And when you talk to people about the immediate impact we have, they want to join. They want to get on board.
And it's such a fun event, and it's bringing all these people together that are friends that haven't seen each other in ages. Maybe they were classmates, maybe they were rivals on the field, but it's such a great camaraderie. It's an awesome event. Awesome event. So you guys are both Catholic school kids all the way through college. And we've hit on this a little bit, but what would each of you say to our audience about Catholic education and its impact on your lives? Phil, let's start with you.
Well, Catholic education has had a significant impact on my life. As I mentioned, I was one of 8 children to attend Catholic schools, and my parents couldn't afford to send us to Catholic schools, so we worked our way through it and found a way to make that happen. And I think the primary lesson I learned from Catholic schools is that we all have a responsibility to give back to those that have helped us wherever we might find ourselves. I never envisioned I'd be in Louisville, Kentucky. I was raised in Ohio, thought I'd spend my whole life in Ohio, but I came to Louisville in 1994. Louisville really changed me for the better, and Louisville, this community rallies around community efforts to make a difference in the lives of children specifically, and for me, it has been a pleasure to be in a position where I can assist in some small way. So the Catholic education for me, I would say, I would sum it up this way. my Catholic education taught me that the person you look at in the mirror in the morning is not the only person you should be caring for throughout the day, and that every person that you touch along the way in the day should have something better because of their interaction with you. And I've tried to live that, and was instilled in me by a lot of sisters back in the 70s in Catholic school, and certainly reinforced by the Jesuits in college. And it's made for a very satisfying life to this point, and I'm sure I'm not finished providing for others as I move forward.
That's powerful. Rich, let's see if you can follow that one up.
I can't, but I'll try. Look, I'm like Phil. I'm the fourth of 9 kids. Grew up here in Louisville. We all went to St. Stephen Martyr School down the street. The boys went to St. X. The girls went to Sacred Heart. And that experience pushed all of us, kind of knowingly or unknowingly, to become college graduates as well. Mostly Catholic college graduates, 4 from Xavier, 4 from the University of Dayton, and 1 from the University of Cincinnati. So that set us on a pathway from an education perspective that demanded that we do our best. It demanded that you go forward and not stop, and you create an opportunity for yourself to get started in your life through great education. More importantly, it really defined who I am to this day, and always will. And I'm talking about my faith in Jesus Christ and our Catholic Church. And actually, it gets stronger with age. It's really amazing the impact that had then and what it has now. And it's really the thing, quite honestly, that propelled me to get involved with the foundation when I retired from Kindred 9 years ago. It just kind of came to me pretty instantly.
Right.
And it is the best thing I think I've ever done.
Well, listen, Rich, I'm glad you made that comment, and this, kind of goes to both of you guys. So you were uber successful executives, right, in the C-suite world, and now you've moved to this nonprofit world, which is a totally different animal. What do you miss of the corporate world, and what are the benefits of being in the nonprofit world now?
Well, I think for me, you always miss the relationships that you built over your career. And I would say those relationships would be the clients that we helped fulfill their dreams in terms of how they were running their personal or professional life. And you certainly miss the relationships that you have with fellow employees.
Okay.
But I would tell you, transitioning to a organization like SICE is, I'm in a position now where I can take the experiences of the past 34 years in the financial services, as well as all of those relationships, and provide something more meaningful and more lasting in the community. And that is an education of the children in the inner city that need somebody to help them. And they need someone to take an interest in their life, to provide a education where they can then use that education to benefit others in the community. Whether that's in Cincinnati, whether that's in Louisville, is not important to me. What's most important is, how do we enable that child, that student, that scholar to pursue a path in life where they can become the best version of themselves?
Rich, that sounds exactly like what you're doing at the Catholic Education Foundation.
Yeah, look, Phil and I, we're in the same business if you think about it. We're in 2 different cities, but are essentially chasing the same dream, right? And, like Phil, I was lucky enough with our 4 children to provide them a Catholic education. They're all college graduates now and out on their own, chasing their own dreams. And for me, quite honestly, where I am in my life, it's time to give it back. And it's time to give it back in a bigger way. And I'm not talking about financially necessarily. I'm really talking about as my time and my effort and working hard every day for the benefit of somebody else.
Sure.
Yeah.
That's powerful. So, Phil, I know you did a ton of charitable work across the community when you and your family lived here in Louisville. How does your time leading the Catholic Education Foundation stack up for you?
Yeah, we were fortunate. This community embraced Phil McHugh and the McHugh family in a way that we'll never be able to repay. And you're absolutely right. I had an opportunity to work with various organizations, the Orchestra, Leadership Louisville, United Way, the arts, and this one stands out. This one stands out. Even when I left to go back to Cincinnati in 2010, I committed to Rich and the leader at the time that I would ensure that the Catholic Education Foundation would be in a very solid position.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't want to leave any gap, and I fulfilled that. And this is who I am. As Rich said, how important his faith is to him. I would echo that, although it's different because faith is very personal. But we have that common characteristic that we want to give back. We want to help others. And don't get me wrong, there's some great charities in this town, and this town is very, very full of very generous donors. But for Phil McHugh, the Catholic Education Foundation will always have a special place in my heart. And I'm just thrilled to see what's become of the Catholic Foundation and the number of lives it touches on an annual basis.
It's awesome. So, Rich, I'm going to put you on the spot here. How much tuition assistance funding has been generated over the past 14 years just from this one event? And what do you think this year's event will bring?
Well, that's been the amazing part, right? We talked earlier, the first event was $25,000 profit after we paid our expenses, which at the time was very successful. When we launched our first dinner event back in 1990, we lost $25,000. So that was a really great start. And, it's over 14 years, it's provided over $3.7 million of net funding to our mission. And again, if you look at the ramp up in the profitability of this event, last year's event alone was $525,000. And look, we're in the record-setting business for a reason because we have to, right?
Sure.
The demand's going up. We got to raise more money. So hopefully this year's event will rocket past last year's record.
Phil, it's great to have you back in town, and on behalf of our entire community, thank you. Seriously, thank you. It's for your incredible vision in establishing this Hallmark Luncheon event that changes the lives of so many people. Thank you is really all we can say, right, Rich?
No, thank you, Phil. And you have catapulted this organization to a whole new level while you were here. And thank God for your friendship and your hard work. God bless you.
Rich at the Catholic Education Foundation.
The answer is yes.
Thank you guys so much.